Our urban landscapes have been drastically transformed over the last 50 years. If you came to this exact spot even 10 years ago, majority of the condos behind me wouldn't even be there. And it's pretty incredible to see how we've adapted our urban centers to be places that we not only work, but where we live, where we relax, where we go to get out and enjoy nature. And with that has come a big importance put on the exterior design of all of these condos that are now dotting our skyline. And what's happened for some developers is that they've put so much importance on the exterior of their buildings that they've been willing to sacrifice the interior. And how does that affect the layout? And that's what we're going to talk about today. And how can you live in these uniquely shaped condos, or is it just too impractical? So let's go and talk about it. In Toronto, we've been experiencing a condo boom since the early 2000s, and in that period, we've seen over 213,000 condo units built. Yes, 213,000 condos or more in 20 years. It's pretty incredible. It's a vast amount of units. It's a lot of people. And with all of this increased units come increased competition for the developers. And one of the biggest things that they do to stand out from all of the other projects that are going around the city is the exterior structure, because it's the thing that when they put out their marketing materials, they put out their website, they send out their email promos to try and pre-sell the whole project. That's what's going to catch an investor or an end user that actually wants to live there. That's what's going to catch their eye the most. And having something that's unique and never seen before in the city really helps you kind of stand out from all of that competition. And some of these projects, like the one behind me, have balanced this perfectly, where they have a very, very unique external structure that's visually appealing, yet the interiors are super functional. However, not all the buildings that have built over those past 20 years that took on unique designs took on this philosophy. They really put more emphasis on the exterior structure versus the interiors, and ultimately sacrificed some of the floor plan in a couple of the units to satisfy this exterior structure. So we're going to go and take a look at one of those now, just a bit further down Queens Quay. One of the first condos downtown to really take on this unique design were the Water Club condos behind me at 208 Queens Quay West and 8 York Street. And these are really interesting buildings because of the rounded shape of them. Basically, the entire building is a circular shape, which stands out from the regular rectangles and squares that we normally see in most condo developments. And what makes this building pretty iconic is partially because of that design. And if you've ever been down to Harbourfront, you know what I'm talking about, because the two buildings actually frame the CN Tower perfectly. And you might have come here and taken this photo. I know I do quite a bit whenever I'm passing by the area, but it's just so nice because the architects did such a great job on making this making the design on the outside really visually appealing, and it kind of flows nicely. It has that bit of a natural feel, the rounded edges, a bit closer to water, not so harsh. So just small architectural designs like this that really make the exterior visually appealing, even though the building is over 15 years old. It still looks great to this day. The downside of these complexes and some of the layouts is that you have very long hallways because of the shape of the building. To get out to your living space and to these beautiful balconies that have south-facing views right over Lake Ontario, you can sometimes have a long, narrow hallway, which results into some space that just doesn't work very well. And some of the floor plans that I'll show you here are some examples of that, where they work, but they're not ideal. And that kind of goes back to what we're talking about is, are uniquely shaped condos difficult to live in, and why? And this one is because they were just trying to satisfy that exterior. Do you get an upside of having more natural light throughout the day because of the rounded shape? Absolutely. But you do have to make a bit of a sacrifice on the interior. And this is definitely a conscious decision by the architects when they were making this to say, you know, we really need and want to have this rounded exterior, and to do so, we need to facilitate the inside in this orientation to make it work. And that's fine, but as I'll show you later, there's projects that can do something very unique and interesting that, you know, stand out to the eye as you go past them, but are a bit more functional on the interior space. But before that, let's go and take a look at one more building that had a really unique design, but didn't really hit it in the execution of it. So let's go. One of the most recent condos to be built that really took on a unique design is the L Tower behind me at 8 the Esplanade. And this is a really unique building that is unlike anything else that we've ever seen in the city because of its shape. And what makes it so distinct is the actual backwards curve at the top of the building that has a purposeful function, actually. It's not just because they wanted to curve it. It was so that they weren't going to impact or cast a shadow onto the Bursey Park, which is just situated east of the building. And I love thoughtful little designs like this because they really think about, you know, the area around them, not just the building itself. They think about how is this going to affect the wider community. And I really appreciate that the architect did this. And a lot of the floor plans in the building are actually extremely functional. The only downside comes when you get to the units at the top, where the curve actually starts to kick in. And what happens here is that you start to lose usable square footage, because as you get closer to the windows, the roof is arcing back towards you, which means that you can't even stand full height over in that area, which ultimately means that some of the lower floors, meaning the less expensive units, have more functional floor plans than the more luxurious higher up floors, which you'd be paying a much higher premium for. And this is a little odd, especially because, you know, the building was so thought out overall that they kind of let this go through. And this goes back to, you know, basically the same thing that we were talking about with the Water Club condos, is that there was a conscious sacrifice made to satisfy the exterior shape of the building. And in this purpose, I understand it, but ultimately it has a negative impact on the livability of those units. So we're actually going to head over to an example now that perfectly combines a really unique, striking exterior design with beautiful interior architecture as well. So let's go and have a look at it. One project downtown that really nailed the combination of having a truly exquisite exterior that's a bit of an engineering marvel, and paired this with a really functional interior space are the condos behind me at Pier 27. So this is 29 and 39 Queens Quay East, so it's 4 buildings total. But what's really unique is that the 2 buildings each have their own overhang that actually houses a penthouse unit, or actually several penthouse units. And they have spectacular south-facing views to the waterfront that's just behind us here. And then they also have some really nice city views as well. And the structures that support these overhangs are where a majority of the units are actually housed. And I lived here when the building was brand new, and I have to say the 1+den 2-bed layout that I had here was easily the best place that I've ever lived in. It was 780 square feet, 10-foot ceilings, huge kitchen, huge living room, huge den, huge bedrooms. Everything was fantastic. And it was kind of cool to come back to a place every day that I could stop and say, wow, that's a really beautiful place to live, but also go back into the inside of it and say, wow, this is a really great layout. And having that marriage of the exterior architecture with the interior architecture that they've nailed on this project is something that gives me hope for the future. I really hope that architects take this into their stride of, you know, not just sacrificing purely to satisfy the needs of what they want to do on the exterior of the building, and not really think about the people that have to live in it with the layouts that they create. So It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next 5-10 years as our condo boom continues to increase. We have so many condos coming over the next 10 years, and there's going to be some truly unique designs. So I'd love to hear in the comment section below, what is your favorite or your most hated unique building that you've seen or lived in? So as I said, leave it in the comment section below, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Bye for now.